So although we've been talking about teaching crisis and, maybe teachers considering leaving, ultimately your book, How to Survive in Teaching, is a book of hope. And one of the main messages that I took from when I read your book was this kind of almost become a mantra of yours now about you're not alone, because teaching can feel a kind of lonely place sometimes, can feel quite isolating. So I just wanted to ask you about that. What do you mean by you're not alone? How can teachers harness the power of others to enjoy a long-lasting and fulfilling career?
Well, like all of my mantras, this is blatantly stolen from somebody. It goes right back to my first year in teaching. And it sounds odd to say that teaching can be lonely, but it really can actually, unless you make a conscious effort to share with other people and acknowledge that you're not this lone crusader in the face of hostile teenagers. And I remember going to my deputy head at the time, my first job, and saying, there's nobody to share it with. The highs, the lows, the triumphs, the puzzles, the exhaustion, whatever it is, that there's no one to share it with. And he said to me, share it with the students. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a really lovely, that was my first stage in the You're Not Alone. But I think it's very important as well that we find like-minded people to share with across the school. And that's something I've learned through the years. And that doesn't necessarily have to be someone in your department. That can be someone in a completely different area of the school. I used to hang out with the hamsters in the autism unit just to give myself a little bit of space from everything. But it's that idea of actually realizing that you are quite literally not alone. And then this came up again. Now, this is very fresh in my mind, having got myself into a complete stew over the GCSE results. It's either me or the system or a bit of both. I don't know. That's another one for another discussion, I suppose. But I remember sometime around February, about 8 years ago, and we'd had a disastrous set of languages results the year before. It was awful. And if anyone's been through this, and I'm sure there are people who have, you go through this harry-carry of just self-loathing. You go through this whole process of, analysis and what did we do wrong and who did we let down, and awful. And so around March of the following year, I completely broke down in a line management meeting with my line manager, Fred. Now, Fred is one of these teachers who is the quietest, kindest. He's the opposite of me. He's whatever the opposite is of melodramatic. He's just measured, calm, kind. And Fred said to me, Emma, you're not alone with these results.
Yeah.
If it goes wrong, I'm your line manager. I'm with it. Your colleagues, your students. You're not alone with these results. And it was one of those moments which has stayed with me ever since. You're not. It's almost this slightly melodramatic martyr act of, I'm going to have to resign and I'm going to have to give everything. So that came up again then, and then again with the book. I think what I found is that whether you're struggling, having a horrendous time, as I was a couple of years ago, or whether you're absolutely thriving but needing to puzzle out some resources and some ideas, or have a debate about pedagogy, there's always somebody out there. And my entry to Twitter was a bit odd because I hated Twitter, absolutely hated it. My husband's a journalist and he used to sit next to me watching the television, and rather than talking to me, he would tweet his thoughts about whatever we were watching to his Twitter followers. So I hated it. And when I started my doctorate, I needed to get people to respond to my survey. Mm-hmm. So he taught me his tips and tricks for how to get people engaged, got loads of people engaged. It was absolutely amazing. Actually changed the shape of the research from purely qualitative to mixed methods because of the number of responses I received. And then I realized I was on this thing called Twitter, so I could use it for other things as well. And when I was having that awful year, I started to reach out quietly by direct message, not publicly. Be careful, by the way, if you're having a hard time. Don't tell the world, and certainly don't link yourself to your school. But quietly, I started to reach out and ask for help. And I found that there was such an incredible support network out there. I mean, there are numerous people I could mention, but Bucky Yusuf said to me, I've just trained as a coach. Would you like me to coach you for a few weeks? And I thought it was a new year to do something good. And I thought why would this person be doing this? Instant suspicion. Yeah. And she did. And she coached me through one of the most difficult periods of my professional life. And I came out a hell of a lot stronger and a hell of a lot more self-aware. always be grateful to her for that. And of course, there's the wonderful Jill Berry, who's always got time for everybody. She's amazing, the queen of Twitter. But it was she who, and she still talks about it, you know, the good enough mantra came from her, and the idea of, you know, you do your best, but you're a human being. And there are numerous other people I could mention, but you know, that sense that I'm quite literally not alone.